attacks on Saturday.
Yes, I was in Israel, and I was staying at my parents-in-law's house with my family. We were on a holiday for the Jewish holidays. As you know, it was a Jewish holiday when the war started. And I heard the sirens going up and down, and when the second round of sirens started, I looked at my husband and I said, it's serious. It must be something bigger than, a normal attack. And I must say that when I realized how bad things were, those are things Israel never experienced in the past. This is a war against barbaric forces, and we need to win this war because Israel doesn't have another choice, because we cannot afford the idea that any terror organization will think you can slaughter kids in the streets of Israel. And this is what Hamas was doing in the last 48 hours when we realized the horrors and the atrocities being made by Hamas. They are not less than a war crime.
And have you had family and friends affected by what's happened in the last 72 hours?
Well, everyone knows someone who was involved, so we all now starting to hear the heroic stories of people fighting, people fighting against 100 terrorists. Altogether, it was over 1,000 terrorists that invaded Israel on Saturday, and they all came calculatedly, came to kill innocent people, innocent children, young women. And, you're such... I would say you're the kind of person who knows Israel well, and you've heard about things that happened in Israel in the past, but believe me, this is nothing Israel has experienced. The fact that over 100 people are still kept hostage with Hamas, some of them young women from a music festival, those are things make families being devastated, and some families being totally vanished, destroyed, just whole families being murdered. And as I speak to you, I try not to cry because this is so hard for us as a country.
Have you read an article that William Hague has written in the Times today, which was headlined, "Hamas has set a trap that Israel must avoid"? And his basic thesis was that whenever Hamas does something, I mean, I can't say like this because this is the biggest thing they've ever done, but he says Israel often falls into the trap of the fact that a lot of world public opinion is on Israel's side after atrocities like this, but then Israel, he says, overreacts, launches huge initiatives in Gaza, and then world public opinion then turns the other way because they see pictures of women and children having been killed in Israeli air attacks. And this has been a cycle over the years that has repeated itself. Do you not fear that Israel is falling into that trap again?
Israel is a country. Every country, its first and top obligation is to protect its people. What other choice Israel has if not to destroy Hamas? Because think about it. If Israel wants to make sure that Hamas won't have the abilities or the motivation to do it again, what will prevent Hezbollah? What will prevent other jihadic Islam, all those horrible terror organizations that are sitting in our borders to act against our civilians? I think we cannot tolerate that. If it would have happened in Manchester, Liverpool, Aberdeen, anywhere in the UK cities, people would have asked the government to act in the strongest way to make sure the threat won't be there. And we need to make sure the threat won't be there.
But if Israel launches a full-scale attack on Gaza, and that does seem to be likely, and I think a lot of people can understand that as a reaction, but would that not then draw Hezbollah in the north? Would that not provoke the Iranians to do even more to support Hamas than they're already doing? Are you not afraid that this could have even more severe consequences for Israel?
First of all, you don't expect a country that 1,000 people got murdered in one day, innocent people, children, men and women. You don't expect a country like that just to say to its people, well, we can't protect you because public opinion now is going to turn against us. We have public opinion supporting Israel. The UK government, every single building in the Whitehall at the moment has Israel's flag on it. Joe Biden, the President of the United States, has made a strong statement about how much the U.S. supports. Prime Minister of the UK, Rishi Sunak, came last evening to a synagogue in the centre of London. I was there, impressed from his powerful words that he will support Israel, not just today, but always. This is the mindset that the Western countries should have at the moment. Israel needs your support, and Israel deserves your support, because this is the most justified war between good and evil, between democratic country wants people to go to a music festival and those terrorists, barbaric terrorists that came and committed those war crimes in innocent children and destroyed hundreds of families. So this is where we need your support, and you need to understand if it would have happened to the Americans or to the British people or to the French or to the Germans, they had to act in the same way.
Do you think this is partly a result, and what Hamas have done, is that they've seen what's happened over the past few years in terms of Israel getting much better relations with a lot of Arab states? They see Saudi Arabia and Israel starting to get a little bit closer. And that would be quite something if full diplomatic relations were open between Israel and Saudi Arabia. This is an ideal way to stop any of this going any further, isn't it?
First of all, some people assume that that was Hamas motivation. Personally, knowing Hamas ideology, understanding what Hamas stands for, reading the charter of Hamas that is calling to the destruction of Israel, and it sees like a holy assignment to kill every single Jew, I would say this is just an excuse. I'm sure they're not happy from the fact that Israel gets closer to more Arab countries in the region. But the main thing that motivates Hamas is ISIS ideology against Jewish people and the Jewish state. And everyone that cares about human rights should not just condemn, but actually support Israel destroying the infrastructure of Hamas that won't make them any ability to fire rockets, to harm innocent people. This is the time that the Western civilization should see this is a clear-cut case. This is a black and white issue. So I truly believe that even though I want the deal with Saudi to be made, I want more countries to join the circle of peace, I think this is our time, first of all, to defend and protect the people of Israel.
You mentioned the phrase human rights there. Isn't access to water, electricity, energy a basic human right? And Israel has announced effectively a total blockade on Gaza with energy, food, water and electricity. Now that has drawn some fairly sharp reactions, I think, throughout the world, because some people think that it's actually a crime in itself. How can that be justified when that's not just going to affect Hamas, that's going to affect ordinary people, ordinary women and children in Gaza? How can that be justified?
Well, first of all, you need to blame Hamas for everything that is happening in the Gaza Strip. Because
I don't dispute that.
No, I just want to set a perspective about it from the international law perspective. Israel doesn't control Gaza, which means it doesn't have any effective control in the Gaza Strip since 2005.
With respect, it does if it blockades Gaza.
No. So according to the international law, definitely when you're in a war, but even if we don't have a war, and we do have a war with Hamas, the circumstances since 2005 define Gaza as a place that Israel doesn't control. It means basically that Israel has no obligation, I repeat, no obligation to give any goods, supplies, water, electricity, whatever, to the Palestinians in Gaza. And more than that, it's not like Israel is the only border that Gaza has. Gaza has a border with Egypt. You can demand the same demand from Egypt. It's not like Israel is the only access. And at the moment, Israel is in a point where it needs to do everything in order to protect its people. And it means we need to concentrate on effective things to do in order to
imposing a ban of supplying food and water on ordinary people in Gaza. That doesn't affect Israeli security, does it? I mean, it wouldn't affect Israeli security to allow water and food over the border.
And then I'm saying again, the responsibility for supplying food and water is Hamas leadership that controls Gaza. I mean, think how ridiculous is that? Imagine the Second World War. Let's say Germany had a border with the UK, and Britons had to supply to the German population water, supplies, whatever. They're your enemy. You can't give them supplies, no matter what their circumstances. It's their leadership that is in charge to give the population whatever. And we can't be in a position, and I'm telling you again, we can't be in a position where the international community at the moment that supports Israel's actions of self-defense, you can't tie Israel's hands in this self-defense war. And if you want to blame someone for circumstances of Gaza, blame it on Hamas, that from 2005 had totally abilities with all the international support to make Gaza Singapore, and instead it became city of evil, turning all the international support into tunnels of terror and all those horrible rocket machines against Israel.
We've only got 2 minutes left, so if I can just ask you this. You're very close to the Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu. He calls himself Mr. Security, but this has been the biggest security failure that Israel has experienced, I would say, since it was created. Can Israelis really trust him to keep them safe anymore?
Well, I must say that we all share the need for, at the moment, unity in our country in order to understand that it's not because of this prime minister or another, it's because we're dealing with cruel terrorists. We need to blame it, first of all, on the fact that they don't care about human life and they are committing those horrible crimes. About the investigation that should be made about security issues, I absolutely agree. All Israelis think that we'll have to think after this war about the things that led to this tragedy and this disaster. But this is not the time. This is the time to fight. This is the time to protect the people of Israel. And I know that the people of Israel trust the government and they support a unity government. But at the moment, I know that there is negotiation to form it. People are, comparing it to, the cabinet war when you had your own big battle against evil. And I know it's on a different scale. I'm not comparing it to the Second World War. It's just this is the case where we need unity, and the Israeli people support unity government. And I really hope to see it in the coming few days as it looks being reported in our news.
Well, I want you to know that we did a phone-in on what's going on last night on the programme. We'll be doing another one at 9 o'clock tonight. And the overwhelming reaction from our listeners was to express their condolences with the people of Israel for what's happened. And it's just horrific to read about some of the atrocities that have happened against perfectly innocent people trying to go about their everyday lives. And I hope the people of Israel know that the people of the United Kingdom are on their side. Tzipi Hotovely, thank you very much indeed for talking to us. Tzipi Hotovely is the Israeli ambassador to the United Kingdom. We'll get some reaction from you to that interview in just a moment on LBC. It's 10 to 8.
LBC.